Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group. Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group.
Welcome to Gridiron Central, a very special Monday edition of our preview show. Of course, we do this every year around Thanksgiving because on Wednesday, guess what? We're not going to be at work. I'm not going to pull Matt in on a Wednesday. We will be out covering as usual, but you get an early dose of football right now. Of course, on Wednesday, you're probably not caring about high school football anyway. You're thinking about turkey. Matt Davis, the voice of 95.7 The Ridge Football, joins me again today. Got to do the fist bump. And, of course, a belated happy birthday to you. I believe it was last Friday. I don't think Model gave you that good a birthday present, unfortunately, though.
Well, they scored at the end of the game on the last play, so that was enough for me. And, unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them to win the game, but it was really exciting for the kids to finally get on the board in that game. It was a nice trip down there, really nice facility at Greater Atlanta Christian. But let's face it, folks, Greater Atlanta Christian is a good football team.
Definitely so, definitely so. Of course, if you watched us on the Friday show or if you even paid attention to high school football over the weekend, you understand that we only have 6 teams left. 3 of those single-A schools that did not play last week. The other 3, Calhoun, Rockmart, a huge surprise victory over Appling County, and then Ridgeland. Now, of course, both Calhoun and Ridgeland are heavy favorites to possibly move to the semis or beyond. Rockmart, first playoff win since 1988. We're going to talk about all of those games here. Crazy enough, I was a sophomore at East Rome High School the last time Rockmart won a game.
Gosh,
a playoff game, excuse me.
I did not realize that.
And that was actually a very good Rockmart team, too. I believe they went all the way to the state semis that year, unless I'm badly mistaken.
That really surprises me.
You know, we're going to talk about all 6 of these games after the break. We'll also talk about a whole bunch of other things. We're going to start off right now. The big bad boys left in Double-A. Washington Wilkes traveling to play Calhoun. The winner of this game, actually we'll talk about that in a second, Washington Wilkes 10-1 on the season. Their only loss came to Jefferson. Last week they beat Bowden 66-28 in the first round of the Double-A playoffs. Calhoun obviously 11-0 on the season in the midst of a 26-game winning streak. They have won 15 straight home playoff games. Last loss came back in 2007 against Greater Atlanta Christian in the second round of the playoffs, if I remember correctly. I'm not going to have any drama here. I mean, I think that Jefferson could give Calhoun a battle, but I just think there's just too much of Calhoun. Calhoun's going to win. It's at home. Matt, what do you think?
Well, I think you said it all when you said how many games they won in the playoffs at home in a row consecutively. Because when you go up to Calhoun on any night, a regular season game, especially in the playoffs, the atmosphere is unlike any atmosphere I've ever seen at a high school football game. It's like going to a small college or something like that. We talked about that for the last few years. And the fans' enthusiasm and the community getting behind this football team is just unbelievable. And that is very, very tough for young men to come into town up at Calhoun and experience that and end up on the winning side of things. Now, Washington Wilkes, they may be a little bit more of a challenge for Calhoun than perhaps Wesleyan was last week, but Wesleyan is not a bad little football team, so I think that was a good win for Calhoun to sort of get warmed up for the playoffs. One of the things that we'll probably talk about during the show is one of the things that the teams are facing this week that they don't normally face is something you mentioned when we started the show. It's Thanksgiving week. So that kind of changes their schedule. I know the Floyd County and Rome City schools are out this week. I'm not sure about Gordon County.
I don't know if they're out the whole week, but obviously they will be out at least, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Yeah, the key for the coaches in that situation is keeping these kids in a normal routine as much as possible. And the thing about it is Calhoun's used to having to do that because they're playing this week all the time. So I really think everything is favoring Calhoun in this game. I think they'll win this game pretty big.
Yeah, definitely so. And that is a very good point you point out there of it's kind of crazy because usually Thanksgiving week falls as a third round of the playoffs come in. Instead of this year, the way it all falls, it's the second round of the playoffs for everybody except single A, and so only the first round for them. So you have a lot of teams that may not usually have to worry about that whole Thanksgiving time frame and everything. And you have Turkey Day on Thursday, then you got to get ready for Friday. You don't want to overstuff yourself because then you're fat and lazy. All kinds of things. And of course, Washington Wilkes then has to travel up to Calhoun. And you're right, the atmosphere at Calhoun. I've been around and covered lots of high school football. When I think about them, I really think of the atmosphere at St. Thomas Aquinas in Fort Lauderdale. Lakeland, Fort Myers, teams, traditional powerhouse teams in Florida. They have that same game day atmosphere that Calhoun does. Calhoun is a very difficult place to play. The fans are very, very loud. The whole atmosphere is huge. Again, what else can we say? Calhoun, I think, is going to win this game. Maybe it's tough. Maybe it's not. I don't think it really matters. Calhoun wins. One note here. The winner of this game is going to play the winner of the Brooks County-McIntosh County game. Of course, I've been projecting from almost week 1 of the season. It's going to be Calhoun-Brooks County. One note, Brooks County only won 22-18 last week over their opponent. That's raised a lot of eyebrows, surprised a lot of people. Don't be surprised to see Brooks County just kind of lay the beat down on McIntosh County. If Brooks County wins and Calhoun wins, there will be a coin flip Saturday morning to determine who will host in the third round of the state playoffs. Obviously, for Calhoun, you want to host at home. You don't want to have to make that long, long drive down to Quitman, Georgia, like we did back in 2008. Of course, Calhoun went down there and won in 2008. An awfully tough place to play down there with that long trip. We'll have to wait and see. We'll also talk about another coin toss possibility when we talk about Ridgeland. Moving on to the biggest surprise story, in my humble opinion, of the state playoffs. That is Rockmart in Class AAA last week, winning against Appling County late in the game. Rockmart even had to, where the defensive coordinator came to Coach Duff at halftime and said, hey, this is a pass play I think will work. Rockmart ended up using that pass play and it helped them end up winning the game. Crazily enough, kudos to Rockmart. Great athleticism, beat a team on the road. Appling County, Baxley, Georgia is not a close trip. Long road down there. Carver Columbus obviously comes in this game. They're 10-1 on the season, ranked number 2 in Class AAA. Their only loss was to Colquitt County, and we all know how good Colquitt County is. Last 2 years, Carver has advanced to Class AA semis, losing to Calhoun and Buford. We covered that Calhoun game a couple of years ago. Of course, they lost to Buford last year. Last week, they beat Dodge County 42-21. Rockmart, first playoff win since 1988. I think I said that earlier. You look at this, my humble opinion is you have 2 extremely athletic teams. And Carver has been there and done that. Rockmart, obviously, this is all new to them. These kids haven't won a playoff game in forever. The thing here with Rockmart is, and I think you and I have said this, they're a Jekyll and Hyde football team.
Oh, yeah.
Rockmart has the athletes to hang with anybody. And when Rockmart brings their A game, it's absolutely unbelievable. Just ask Appling County. There's no way the Pirates, felt they were going to lose that game. Guess what? They did. They got stung by the Yellow Jackets hard in the first round. Rockmart moves on. I'm not going to pick Rockmart. I'm sorry. I think they might be able to hang with Carver Columbus. Carver's very athletic, a little more disciplined than Rockmart, but they've been there and they've done that. It's at Carver. I don't see Carver losing to Rockmart. It would not surprise me if it's close, but in the end, I think Carver wins this one. Matt, what do you think?
Anything can happen. I think we've learned that. The deck was stacked against Rockmart last week. I never thought in a million years that they would end up winning that game. You always expect a surprise or two when it gets to the playoffs. Yeah. That would be the least likely one for me. I just really felt solid that Rockmart was going to lose that game. They had to travel a long way to play that game. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's extremely tough to play there. And somehow, some way, they found a way to surprise me yet again this season. But again, the thing about it for me is, and I've said this like a broken record, it's the inconsistency that you get from Rockmart. Yeah. They never seem to do the same thing more than 2 weeks in a row. It just doesn't seem to work that way. So the question for me in this game is, yes, I think that Rockmart athletically can stay in the game with this team, but can they pull this off 2 weeks in a row? Now, the trip's a little bit shorter this week. Yes. I think that definitely works in their favor to not have to go that far. I'm sure they built a lot of confidence, and now they realize, hey, we can play with these really good teams, and maybe that confidence will be what sees them through and helps them find that consistency they need, and maybe they're in just the type of form they need to be in to perform through these playoffs. But I still can't pick Rockmart. I just feel like somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to lose this game. So I'm going to pick against Rockmart, but there again, I'm learning that nothing's shocking. It could come out the next day that they won that game, and I won't be as surprised as I was last weekend. So
definitely so.
Carver Columbus wins, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Rockmart found a way to do it again.
You never know. And in this year, you cannot count out Dan Duff and his Rockmart Yellow Jackets. Just a note, the winner of this game will play the winner of the North Oconee Buford game. So, gosh, you got to hate Rockmart this year. In the way the bracket lined up for them is you beat a good Appling County team, then immediately you turn around and have to play at the number 2 team in the state. Then if you, by some way, you win that game, guess what? You got Buford next, probably. I mean, come on, that's a murderer's row. Again, good job, Rockmart. I never saw that coming. Kudos on the win. Moving on. LaGrange at Ridgeland in Class 4A. Ridgeland has become that success story. A lot of people around the state are thinking the Panthers can make a run to the semis, possibly beyond. Ridgeland, of course, 10-1 this season. We know, everyone knows here, their only loss came to Calhoun, at Calhoun in a very close game early in the season. LaGrange 6-5 on the season. They have losses to Noonan, Thompson, Fayette County, Sandy Creek, and Carrollton. Last week, LaGrange beat Chestatee in a track meet, 59-46. I still think both teams I guess the defense has stayed on the bus in that game. Looking at it, Matt, what do you think about this one?
I think you got to go with the most consistent team here. I mean, Ridgeland has been consistently good, and if it weren't for a last-second play, they might have beat Calhoun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that game boiled down to. That's their only loss of the year. They've had an outstanding season. Yeah. I don't think they're going to let a LaGrange team that has not had a very impressive season and has not been very consistent this year come into the playoffs and then knock them off. I just don't see that happening. I think they are feeling very confident about what they've got on the field right now. They've got a strong backfield. They've got some guys that can run the ball. I like their ability to kind of spread things around in terms of their offense. They're not a one-horse.
No,
they're not a one-trick pony, so to speak. And so I think that really bodes well for them. So I'm going to go with Ridgeland in this game. I just think they're the better team.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I mean, this is a case where, LaGrange has a pretty prolific offense. Their defense, not so much. I think Ridgeland can get in a track meet with them and win. The game is at Ridgeland, and that is a pretty tough place to play. The one thing that I look at, LaGrange has better playoff history than Ridgeland does, although LaGrange hasn't had a great playoffs in the past few years. Ridgeland has never advanced past the second round of the playoffs. So Ridgeland's trying to make school history right here. This is considered to be probably the best team Ridgeland has ever put on the field, especially if they win this game. There's a lot of things there. I think the fans are going to come out in droves. I mean, we're going to be there filming the game. It should be a great game. Obviously, Ridgeland here. I'm going to pick Ridgeland. I think the Panthers break the curse of the second-round playoff loss this year. They're going to beat LaGrange. Next week, if they win, they will play the winner of the Mary Persons Cairo game. If Mary Persons plays, that game will be at Ridgeland. If Cairo wins, that game will be a coin flip on Saturday, and we'll see whether we have to go down to Cairo to cover them or whether we have to go to Ridgeland to cover them. I think Ridgeland wins, and, of course, we'll see. There will be one win. If they win this game, there'll be one win away from the state semis. Class A starts the first round of their playoffs this week. Of course, we have 3 teams alive, 1 in the private school bracket, the other 2 in the public school bracket. Remember, Class A has been divided into public and private. I won't even get into the nonsense behind all of that. Prince Avenue Christian travels to play Darlington. We do know that the game is going to kick off at 7 o'clock, not 7:30. We found out from the athletic director at Darlington, and ticket prices are $12, not $10. That's GHSA rules there. Prince Avenue on the season 8-2. Their losses to Athens Academy, the number 1 ranked team in the private school playoffs, and George Walton Academy, the number 11 seed in those playoffs. What I will say about both of those games, it was a 14-7 loss to Athens Academy and a 17-14 loss to George Walton Academy. We know about Darlington. Darlington had some tough games early on. Didn't win the region title this year, breaking a string of 3 straight years. Very good quarterback, a team that, when they put everything together is quite good. I'm going to wait on my pick. Matt, what do you think?
Well, in this game for me, the problem I will have picking Darlington is the fact that when you look at their schedule, you don't have a win that really sticks out to you where you say, this is a marquee win for Darlington. They have not had that this year. Prince Avenue Christian, they have proven that they are a consistently good football team. Their losses were close to really, really good teams. They've had a tough schedule, and there's no doubt in my mind that this team is a very capable football team and could win this game. However, this is my upset special of the week. I'm going to pick Darlington in this game, and I'm going to pick Darlington for a couple of different reasons. And I know this could be kind of a surprising pick for a lot of people. I think most people are going to go with Prince Avenue Christian, and I understand why they're going to do that. But the first thing for me is, let's talk about Brad Butler. I know one kid can't win a football can't win a football game for a football team, but one kid can lead his team to victory. Yes. And this kid has got so much stinking experience because he's been starting games since he was a freshman. Yes. I'm not sure exactly how many games he started, but it's well over 40. and he's been in the playoffs several times, and so he's got a lot of experience under his belt, and the team responds to his leadership. And I think his leadership and his playoff experience is going to help these kids feel comfortable in this setting and help kind of push them along. And I think that's the number one reason why I'm going to pick Darlington in this game. The second reason is Tommy Atha is a fantastic coach, and he's got a good coaching staff. He's going to have these kids ready for this game, and I just really feel like they're going to be the type of team that can pull the upset in this game, particularly because they're playing at home. Chris Hunter Stadium is a tough place to play. The fans are going to be there. They're going to be supporting this team. You're going to feel the energy. Even if they get down early in the game, the fans are not going to let up on that, and they're going to make it a difficult place for Prince Avenue Christian to play. So I think Darlington's going to pull the upset.
I look at this game, and I'm going to agree with you on a lot of different things there. Number one, Brad Butler, quarterback, he started 46 or 47 games for Darlington. That's a lot of starts. I look back to a couple of years ago. Darlington was in the second round against Lincoln County, and Lincoln County's quarterback there, the last of the game, led Lincoln County on the game-winning drive. Darlington wasn't able to answer, and Darlington lost the game. They probably should have won. That's kind of the way I look at it. Darlington needs to keep the game close. Do that. If the game is close late and Darlington needs a score to win, I have complete faith that Brad Butler and that offense can go down the field and do it. The other thing, too, is Atha and his coaching staff have 2 weeks to prepare. Yes, Prince Avenue Christian does too, but I don't know. Atha's coaching staff is quite good. It is at Darlington. I don't know how big that plays into it because the crowd support, there'll be some fans out there, but come on, Darlington stands are never full, and to be honest, their fans are some of the quietest in the entire area. So, yes, I've said it before, and I will say it again. If you do a decibel meter, they don't really match up with the other area schools. So that being said, I don't think the crowd support's that big a deal. I think the home field advantage is more just because the location and not having to travel. I'm going to agree with you on this one. I may do a flip-flop thing. I'll probably pick an opposite side on the radio game just to make people mad. But anyway, I do think Darlington can win this game. It would not surprise me if they don't, but I do think Darlington can win. Of course, the winner of this game is going to have to play the winner of the Athens Academy Mount Pisgah game, and Athens Academy is the number one seed in the playoffs, of course. Prince Avenue Christian's really hoping they get the win so they can get that rematch about that 7-point loss to Prince Avenue earlier in the year. Moving on to the public school bracket for our single A teams. Gordon Lee at ECI 9-1, their lone loss to Washington County, who is in the AAA playoffs. Gordon Lee 5-5 on the season, losses to LFO Darlington, Tryon, Mount Zion, and Walker. Kudos to Gordon Lee for making the playoffs. That's what I'm going to say first. Unfortunately, is going to be one and done for Gordon Lee in this. I do not see them having enough to hang with ECI. ECI is a very good team, a team that could very easily end up winning the state crown. I think it's cut and dry. Gordon Lee loses. Matt, what do you think?
Running clock in the second half is what I think. I think ECI is going to absolutely eat their lunch. I don't think this is going to be a pretty game. And one of the reasons I say that is that ECI, their only loss this year was against Washington County, a AAA team that is a really good football team.
That is still alive in the second round of the playoffs.
The final score of that game was 48-22. I think that's pretty respectable for a single A team to go play that team and the score end up like that. I think that says a lot about this team. Gordon Lee has been shut out a few times this year. They have not had a banner season. It's been kind of tough. They've had a few games where they really took it on the chin, couldn't get their offense going. They better get that offense going up against this team because there's no doubt in my mind this team's going to be able to score a lot of points. You got to be able to keep up with them, which I don't think is going to be the case. Like I say, I really do think this is going to be a running clock situation in the second half, and Gordon Lee is going to have a really tough night.
I agree with you. We're both in agreement on that one. One last game to talk about before our commercial break. Tryon traveling to Irwin County. The Bulldogs 8-2 on the season. Losses to Darlington and Mount Zion. The Mount Zion loss was in overtime. Irwin County 7-3 on the season. Losses to Fitzgerald, East Lawrence, and Wilcox County. All of those are playoff teams. All of those in their respective classifications. I look at this and I kind of feel that Irwin County has played a little bit tougher competition, has done a little bit better against that competition. It's at Irwin County. I think Tryon has had a great year. Don't get me wrong. I think the Bulldogs, they sputtered here and there, but overall, good start to the season, good finish to the season. I'm not going with the Bulldogs. I'm going with Irwin County in this game, Matt.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Irwin County, when you look at the last part of the season, they really started to put things together. They won like 6 of their last 7, something like that, and so they really kind of hit a stride. Tryon, on the other hand, they've been one of those teams that we would describe probably as Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
They've had a season that's kind of had some ups and downs. They've won some games in impressive fashion that kind of surprised me, but they've lost some games as well and that I really thought they should have won.
Yeah.
So I've just not seen the consistency that you want to see. You never know which team is going to show up. Tryon could make this a competitive game, but at the end of the day, I just think Irwin County is a better football team and will win.
Definitely so. The winner of this game is going to play the winner of the Gordon Lee ECI game in the second round of the Single A playoffs. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back from break, we're going to talk a little bit about our AA teams in Rome High that have ended their season so far. Stick around.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.
Welcome back to the show. We always like to thank our sponsors, Georgia Northwestern Technical College and Riverside Automotive Group, for helping bring Gridiron Central to you, the fans, now in our 6th year. Several of our teams obviously have ended their season. 7AA accounts for a majority of our local teams. Obviously, Model, Coosa, and Pepperell all lost in the first round of the playoffs, last Friday. We'll talk a little bit about AA. Matt, and you were at that Model game. What were your? I mean, just look at AA this year, and what were your thoughts on the region?
It was a very tough year for the region. Let's face it, and I can pretty much sum this up in one sentence. Other than Calhoun, our 3 teams from 7AA that went to the playoffs, with a last-second play, avoided being shut out. And what I mean by that is Model scored on the last play of the game to score against GAC. The other 2 teams did not score. Calhoun was the only one to do well in that first round of the playoffs. And so to me, that kind of tells you a lot. The region is down. We're not getting a whole lot of good football coming out of Region 7AA. And I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is. I mean, you may have a theory on that. But it was, people can tell you what they want to, but the GAC Model game was as lopsided as the score. And one thing to mention also is that GAC had 3 touchdowns called back to penalties.
Uh-oh.
And it was pretty ugly from start to finish, more or less. Early in the game, it looked fairly promising that Model was going to be able to move the ball fairly well against them. But the bottom line is that the defense from GAC was a little too stout, and their offense was so well-rounded in terms of mixing up the pass and the running game. And another thing to keep in mind is their top running back didn't play because he was injured. And so, they were playing without one of their top players, and still they were that good of a football team. So our region is just not as good as that region, except for Calhoun. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to knock on any of the teams. I mean, what do I know? I didn't even play high school football. But I just call it like I see it, and I think it's hard to argue against when you have 3 out of the 4, and they score 1 out of those 3 teams.
Yeah.
One score out of those 3 teams. So.
Definitely so. And just looking quick, and I think we've mentioned this before, since 2009, AA squads not named Calhoun are 2-10 in the playoffs. The only 2 wins coming from Dade County and Adairsville. Of course, Adairsville is now AAA. Dade didn't make the playoffs this year. Really, when you look at it, I mean, it was great that Model and Coosa made the playoffs. I think that's going to be something to build off of for both of those squads. Coosa's very young. Model's got a lot of youth, too. Excuse me there. I guess the one thing that kind of bothered me was Pepperell had 20 seniors on this team, and lost in the first round of the playoffs again. Really had, I think, a 6-5 record overall, and they got manhandled at home. Didn't score, and really didn't even come close to scoring against Westminster, a team that was only 4-6. Now, granted, that 4-6 record is against a lot of really good teams, but at one time, 7AA was the most feared region in the state in AA. Of course, that has been quite a long time. Other than Calhoun, the rest are gone. Now, I will say it hurts whenever our region is matched up against 6AA in the first round of the playoffs. So next year, that should not be the case. So, when you look at I'm not really sure which teams are going to jump up. I think Coosa could be in the mix next year. Obviously, Purple's going to be there. Chattooga, Armurchie all had off seasons. Dade, we're not sure what's going to happen there. But I think the thing is that next year is the opportunity for our teams to possibly get some first round playoff wins. It's going to take a lot of work over the off season, though. I mean, there's a big gulf gap, whatever you want to call it, between the top teams in AA and most of our teams in 7AA. To close that gap, you're going to have to work hard. So the question is, who's going to work the hardest? Moving on, our one team in 5A, that is Rome High School. Rome kind of took it on the nose against Gainesville. I think the thing that was interesting to me was the other three teams from Rome's region, East Paulding, Allatoona, and North Paulding, all won, including North Paulding's huge upset over Flowery Branch. Of course, North Paulding is a team that Rome beat several weeks ago. And I guess for me, the disquieting fact is it looked like North Paulding got better as the season went on. And after Rome's loss to East Paulding, you really didn't see Rome and not to knock them, they just didn't seem to get any better.
Oh, yeah, and I really don't know how to explain that, but we've talked about this several times throughout the year. You really felt like that particular region was Allatoona and East Paulding, and then the only surprise that you really get is North Paulding. So I think really that theory, for the most part, is still intact. And who does North Paulding have this week?
You know what? I did not look that up. I mean, it's going to be it'll be a 2 or 3 seed.
And so. I would never, by any stretch of the imagination, say, okay, this first round was a fluke for them. Yeah. But I still feel that obviously they've got a lot.
Well, they'll still be an underdog without a doubt.
Exactly. So we'll see how they perform in this next week, as to see how that theory may not be as correct as we thought it was. But I really do think that you have East Paulding and Allatoona. They're the two top teams in the region, and then everybody else is under that by a pretty decent margin, kind of similar to what you see in 7AA, except for you got two teams there at the top instead of one.
Exactly. And looking at it, Rome is 0-3 in the playoffs since they reached the Class 4A semis back in 2008. 3 straight one-and-dones. Of course, they didn't make the playoffs one year in that range as well. Looking at it, Rome has some players coming back for next year, and much like what I've said about AA, the question with Rome is, how bad do the players want it? How hard are they going to work in the offseason between now and then? What is Rome going to do to correct, the flaws that we see in the team? The defense not as good, the offensive passing game just not being able to get off the ground. They'll have a senior quarterback next year. It'd be very interesting to see how Rome develops over the offseason. And I tell the litmus test, of course, I'm not so sure if they'll play each other again for the preseason game, but that Rome-Calhoun preseason game, to me, is always a litmus test to see how Rome is doing. In the last 3 or 4 years, Rome has not done well at all in that game. The year that Calhoun and Rome both went to the state semis in their respective classifications, I believe that game ended in a 3-3 tie. Since then, Calhoun has dominated that game, and you don't put too much in a preseason game, but I think that's going to be a great litmus test. Look at that game next year if they play each other in the preseason to see what's going on. But Rome has a lot of work to do, as do all of our AA teams, if they want to actually win a playoff game next year. And are y'all covering a game this week for 95.7?
No, we're done. I mean, all the teams that we would be able to cover are out there in the first round. So our Northwest Georgia High School football game of the week is over. We're turning our attention to the round ball.
Gotcha. And of course, there's going to be a lot of basketball coming up. We'll talk about that more in a week or two. Obviously, the holiday tournament will be on us before we know it. Friday night, we're going to have video coverage, of course, from the Darlington game, Calhoun's game, and Ridgeland's game. You can catch all those.
We'll have Darlington on our AM.
And of course, y'all will do Darlington on the AM.
We do all the Darlington games.
So you'll have that on the radio dial as well. We will not have a Gridiron Central scoreboard show Friday night. We're out and about, but all 3 of those games, video highlights, will be on Prep Central Online that evening, along with articles, photos, slideshows, you name it. We'll have it all in live scoring updates all night long. From Matt Davis and Kevin Myrick, I'm Jim Allred saying we'll see you Friday night in our highlights.
Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group,